Allow yourself to take a moment and just fully arrive. Your body is here, but where is your awareness? Where is your attention? Allow that awareness and that attention, that focus, to come right here into the present moment. Allow it to come into this very breath. Allow the awareness to merge into the breath as it flows in and flows out, like the waves of the ocean, an unbroken circle coming in, going out. Don't try to change it. Just allow your awareness to become one with that breath. If the mind wanders, don't worry. Just gently and lovingly bring it back to the breath. Don't allow yourself to get distracted by a story or an analysis. Just the moment you realize a thought has arisen, just draw the awareness back to the breath. You can add a very gentle and simple mantra to this. The mantra is so hum. So hum. And it means I am that. I am that. I am one with the Creator and the creation. I am all that which exists. I am the universe. So as you inhale, just really gently and quietly, allow yourself to chant inside yourself. So And as you exhale, allow yourself to chant slowly and gently to yourself inside. And just allow this chanting of so, hum, to gently reverberate on the inhalations and exhalations as the awareness stays anchored in the breath. Just a gentle reminder as you meditate that there is no place you end and existence begins. You are inseparable from all there is. Slowly and gently bring the palms of the hands together at chest level and gently rub the palms of the hands against each other. Press the palms of your hands into your closed eyes. Slowly lower the hands and open the eyes. Welcome to Satsang. We'll start as we always do with one of the questions that comes in advance from our family joining us from all over the world online. And then we'll open it to any questions that anyone here has. There's a microphone right there, so if you have any question, just come up to the mic and share your name and give us your question. How do we make nature a part of us? From Partik. We're inseparable from nature. You don't have to make nature a part of yourself. As I was saying in the Arati tonight, it's so interesting if you look at all of the Vedic rituals and traditions, all of them have one thing in common. They all use the 5 elements. In any ceremony, any puja you will see, the 5 elements are offered. There's always fire, whether it's an actual fire like the yagna, whether it's just a diya that you light, a lamp that you light. There's always something of the earth, flowers, rice. There's always water. And there's always air and ether, so there'll be incense or camphor. It's burning or creating smoke. And there'll be some kind of a waving. Whether it's the waving of the lamps, or whether sometimes in temples you see actually a waving of fans. And, as I always say, we don't do these things because God is hungry and waiting for someone to offer some ghee or some rice, or that God is thirsty, or, God is hot and waiting for somebody to fan him off. It's not that. But our rishis and our sages and the saints gave us these traditions to remind us that flower is sacred, that water is sacred, the air is sacred. You are offering it to the divine. And what's our human body made of? Exactly the same 5 elements. You couldn't be separate from nature if you wanted to. Sadly, today, a lot of people want to be separate from nature because as they make choices and decisions and policies and consumption around things that harm nature, it's so easy to try to convince us that nature is that. Nature is an object separate from us. It doesn't feel that it's somehow a resource, right? We talk about natural resources. But nature is not a resource. A resource implies it's something for us to use, that it was given to us to use. It's not a resource. It's sacred. It is the divine. So, you don't have to make nature a part of you. You just have to acknowledge that nature already is a part of you. And the easiest way to do that is go into nature. Go into the ocean. Lie in the ocean, lie in a lake, bathe in a river, bathe in the sacred Ganga if you're here. Lie in the dirt under the trees. Walk barefoot in the water, in the sand, in the dirt. Get your hands there. And what you feel, you'll notice it. Something inside you shifts. It's why schools, companies, businesses, jails, like anybody who's trying to inspire anyone, whether it's youth, whether it's their employees, whether it's violent offenders, anybody who's working to try to inspire anyone brings them into nature. Right? I mean, think, why not run a youth retreat in a hotel in the middle of the city? Like, why take them into the woods? Why take your employees on a retreat into some natural place? Why not just some, Hilton in the middle of the town? Because what we know is when we are in nature, we feel differently. We have a different ability to access, on a spiritual level, our own deep spirit, the connection with the divine. On a business level, we have the ability to access creativity, solutions, because when you're deeply connected to yourself, you're creative. And so it's not that the businesses care that we have a spiritual experience, but they know if I take these people into a beautiful, lodge in the middle of the woods, they're actually going to be much more creative, much more vibrant. They're going to problem solve. They're going to brainstorm. They're going to come up with the next billion-dollar idea. Because when we are in nature, we connect to the flow of the universe, to the flow of the divine. Sometimes that flows in creative business ideas, if that's why you went. And if you go spiritually, it flows in the form of showing you who you are, connecting you with that truth. So yeah, you don't have to make nature a part of you. Just put yourself in nature so you can experience it. Pujya Swamiji always says, come to nature, because we, of course, lead most of our spiritual retreats in natural places. And he always says, come to nature, be with nature, and discover your true nature. So nature gives us that ability to do that. Yeah, wonderful. Other questions? Yeah, any question that anyone had? Yes. Just come up, there's a microphone here.
I am Dilip Shukla. Pranam.
Pranam.
We meditated beautifully on Soham today. How would we differentiate between Soham and Aham brahmasmi, the two mantras in our Upanishads?
Yeah, great. So today we meditated on Soham, which means I am that. He mentioned another of what we would call mool mantras, these foundational mantras. Aham brahmasmi, I am Brahman. I am the supreme reality. And we've got them in the second person as well. Tattvam asi, thou art that. So you are that. I am that, and then there's you are that. Soham, aham brahmasmi, they mean the same thing. The capital T, that, means it all. Brahman is it all. They're just different ways of saying exactly the same thing. One of the beautiful aspects of the Vedic scriptures is, it's like Paramahansa Ramakrishna used to speak about, the mother who wanted her children to eat spinach. And so she would cook the spinach in different ways for her different children. One child liked it fried, another child liked it raw, another child liked it dipped in basin, chickpea flour, breaded and then fried. And the mother would prepare 5 different types of spinach for her 5 kids, because her ultimate goal was they should eat spinach. And in the same way, our scriptures have given us these same teachings in so many different ways. You want to get there through loving God? No problem. Here's your path of bhakti. You want to get there through using your body, using every minute, using action to get there? No problem. Here's your path of karma yoga. You want to get there from a dualist tradition? As the lover of God. God is the beloved, you are the lover. Wonderful. Here's an entire tradition of all of the songs and the prayers and the pujas of those who love God. You want to get there by being one with the divine? Here's an entire tradition of the Advaita tradition. There is nothing but God. Nothing but God. There is no two. There's no lover and beloved. There is just love. There is nothing but God. So however you want to get there, the scriptures give it to us. And they give it to us in so many different ways. So, yeah, Soham, Aham brahmasmi, they mean the same thing. I have found on a personal level that if you're doing it as a contemplative practice, meaning you go in with a teaching, and whether the teaching is neti, not this, I am not my clothes, I am not my skin, I am not my bones, I am not my thoughts. It's a teaching you take in and you work with it. And it's more of a contemplative practice than what we would actually speak of as meditation. But I'm not going to get worried about the semantics. You want to call it meditation, that's also fine. But it's much more of a concentrated contemplation. Neti, neti, I am not this, I am not that. Or you can go in with the question, who am I? Who am I? Koham, koham. And of course then the answer arises, soham. I am that. Who am I? I am that. Can go in with Aham brahmasmi. I am Brahman. I am that Sat Chit Anand. That truth and existence and consciousness and bliss. But what I have found is that in an actual meditative practice where you are not thinking, you're not contemplating, you're not working with a teaching, but you are just drawing awareness. I have found personally that using so-hum with the breath is easier in a meditative practice than Aham brahmasmi. I find it hard to do that with my inhalation and exhalation. The so-hum, and it's not meant to be an essay topic. It's not meant to be something that you come up with all sorts of thoughts around. It's meant to be much more something that just takes you deeper and deeper into that state of pure awareness. Because what happens is the mind wanders. For some people, with blessedly quiet minds, simply drawing the awareness to their breath is enough. And then you've got those of us who actually can do the, pat your head and rub your stomach at the same time situation, and we can focus on the breath and our mind can still wander. And so then the question becomes, well, okay, give me something else. And so the so-hum for me serves as that something else. Yes, I'm anchored in the breath, but with a mind that's used to doing more than one thing at a time, it likes having a second way to anchor itself. So in the breath, but as the awareness is anchored in the breath, it is simultaneously allowing this mantra to just chant itself on the inhalations and exhalations. And what I have found, again personally, but also with many who I've had the blessing to share this with over the years, is that the addition of the mantra with the awareness enables a lot of people to keep the mind there rather than having it continue to wander. But if you give me Aham brahmasmi, it becomes much more of a very deep and powerful contemplation than just meditation. But they mean the same thing. Yeah. Yes. Pranam.
Pranam. My question is, if I am this causal body in this human being, moving in the drama of the life, is there any scope for me to change this causal body?
So the causal body, and I'm not going to go into the details of the yogic tradition around the 5 bodies. We were speaking about them a little bit last night as well. But basically, what we believe is that we have 5 different sheaths. One made up of our, quite literally the physical body, what we eat, the annamaya kosha. It's literally, you are what you eat. That body is actually actually, un means food. You are literally made up of food. And then we have the pranamaya kosha that's made up of not just the breath as in oxygen or carbon dioxide, but the sacred life force, the prana, the energy. We were talking about it last night. And then we have the manomaya kosha, the vijnanmaya kosha, the mental bodies, the intellectual bodies. Meaning not what you've learned or what you're thinking, but the actual energy of thinking. The actual impressions upon this Jiva Atma of how the mind works. It's not the substance of the mind. It's how the mind works. So those, for example, travel with the soul from lifetime to lifetime. And as I always say, you don't get to take the actual things you learned, so you've got to come back and do calculus again. You've got to learn that foreign language again. But that which you've done to the mind that has transformed the mind, meditation, yoga, seva, prayers, Guru's grace, any kind of sadhana, any kind of deep sadhana that has actually changed not just your physical brain, but the impressions on how the mind and intellect operate. That stays with you, lifetime to lifetime. And then you've got the bliss body, Anandamaya kosha. Also called the causal body. Now, that doesn't need to be changed. The goal is to work with the physical body to whatever extent we can so that it becomes a better vehicle and vessel for our spiritual practice. Because, for example, if your back hurts and your knees hurt, or you had a really heavy dinner late last night and you're burping and farting and like you're just not digested, in any of those cases, you're not going to be able to meditate well in the morning. You may get up, but the aching back, the aching knees, the bad digestion, it's going to be a big obstacle to you having a very deep and profound spiritual experience. So you work with the physical body to enable it to be a more conducive channel for your spiritual practice. And then you work with the subtle body. Pranamaya kosha, manomaya kosha, vijnanmaya kosha, or what we call man, buddhi, ankar. The mind, the intellect, the ego. Because that's the stuff that actually travels with the Jivatma from life to life, from body to body. That sukshma sharir, subtle body. So you want to work with those because as long as you've got that, you're not going to have that drop meets the ocean, merging, moksha, liberation, freedom, nirvana, whatever you call it. As long as you've still got those subtle bodies, you got to keep working with it. So that's what you need to change. How is your energy? How's your mind? How's your intellect? Where is it going? What patterns are there in your mind? How do you think? How do you see? How do you understand? How is the energy flowing through you? Work with that. That's what we change. Such that ultimately, that burns off. We know the physical body is over. But then eventually, the subtle body will burn off. And that's when we actually attain that state of moksha. Yeah. Great. Yes.
Namaste.
Namaste.
My name is Roberto. I would like to ask you about intuition. It's such a beautiful thing to be connected with that inner voice and to be able to make life decisions with that in mind.
Yeah.
But it's also such a hard thing to do. I would like to ask you how to be more connected with that. And if you could include in your answer not just a way to be sure that in meditation we have the right answer, but also how to be connected with that voice in the crazy day-to-day life when we have to make fast decisions. That would be beautiful.
Yeah, great. Our power of intuition and the inner voice. So, it's really a tragedy because there's no other species on Earth that is nearly as confused as we are. From a neurological perspective, from a human biological perspective, from an evolutionary perspective, we are the pinnacle of evolution, right? If you just study the brain, we've got what they call the reptilian brain, meaning we've had that since we were reptiles. That's the part that literally enables us to stay alive. It's the lower brain. Then we've got our mammalian brain. We share that with all the mammals. Slightly higher than the reptilian brain, and then we start developing what's called this cerebral cortex, which is the outer aspect of the brain. We're not the only species that has it, but ours is much, much, much larger than any other species on Earth. And I mention this because it's a really interesting irony that with so much more of a well-developed brain that's been evolving and evolving and evolving from the time we were amoebas to the time we were reptiles to the became mammals to primates to today, that we've actually evolved into being the most confused species that's ever existed. There's no other species on Earth that I've ever heard of that is nearly as confused as we are. Everything else does exactly what it does, and it knows what to do. Dogs bark like dogs do. They eat dog food. They lick. They do exactly what dogs do. Cats do what cats do. Monkeys do what monkeys do. And even when they live together, they don't start copying each other. You never see a dog try to jump into a tree and swing from a branch because it saw the monkey do that. Humans are the only species that seems to have no idea who we are or what to do. Even though on an evolutionary standpoint, we've got such better instruments of understanding, of knowledge, than any other species. You go back to, even us in our Neanderthal days. You never hear stories of, confused Neanderthals or, depressed and anxious Neanderthals. As we've evolved, we've gotten more and more confused. And I think what's happened is, as our brains have evolved, there's room for so much more nonsense. It's like if you travel a lot, and especially if you try to travel light, you'll realize that you don't actually need that much to live, that you can actually go for quite some time out of, a small bag. And it's really quite nice because you can find things really easily, like you know exactly where things are. And then you get back home and suddenly there's all this junk and you can't find anything. And I think it's similar to that. I think that we now have such highly evolved brains that just like having a big house compared to having a small suitcase, there's so much accumulation of junk that we can't actually find what we're looking for. But the solution is the same. Simplify, 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 right? Throw out the junk. Or at least lock it away someplace that you know it's not in the middle of your living room. Only keep out the things that you really need. Otherwise your life becomes cluttered and you can't think properly. Same way in your minds. There's so many voices now that we hear. The voice of what the culture tells you to do. Make a lot of money, become a big success, buy that big house, buy more, have more. Click here, buy now. Right? These are the voices of culture. You've got voices from your family, what you've been taught when you were young. You've got voices from your own particular, religious tradition. What are the values, the ethics of that tradition? We've got voices now from people we follow on social media. Or those who send up WhatsApps every day, that you open, and suddenly that's now in your brain. Oh, this person on social media, they say this, I should do that. And so then when we try to tap in to our inner voice, it's like trying to find something in your house full of junk. There's too much stuff. So the way to connect with our intuition, first of all, is to try to remove as many of those other voices as possible. Or at least to recognize them so clearly that you don't get confused by them. Oh, this is the voice that I learned when I was 6 and my dad said that. Or when I was 10 and my mom yelled at me this. This is the voice that I learned from that TV commercial that told me that, I look the wrong way. This is the voice that I've got from the culture that said, be a man. This is what it means. Or, be feminine. This is what it means. Oh, this is the voice from that person whose TikTok videos I watch every day. Oh, and you just start to really isolate them. So that then when you try to tap into your intuition, you're not confused. Because then you're clear which is the voice of your intuition and which is the voice of your 5th grade teacher. But you've got to recognize those voices. And that's why in meditation, I was speaking about this practice of niti niti, not this, not that. You sit to meditate and voices come. One voice will tell you you've got way too much to do. This is a complete waste of time. Another voice will tell you that you are not meant to be spiritual. You don't deserve it. It's not going to happen for you. You'll have so many voices. Have a voice that says, oh God, I shouldn't have eaten that chocolate cake over the weekend. I bet I gained 5 pounds. I'm scared to get on the scale. You have a voice that says, oh, I know when I get to work, I'm going to get in trouble from my boss because... And all of a sudden, these voices arise. And you just notice them. You just notice them. But in your noticing, you know that they are not you. They are not truth. They're junk in your house. They're the souvenirs you've collected totally unnecessarily but naturally along your life journey. And now they've just cluttered up your house. And as you remove them one by one, not this, not this, slowly you find yourself dropping deeply into a voice that tends to be somewhat quieter, but much more still, much more present, much more grounded. These other voices seem to be constantly kind of frenetic. There's a hyperness to them. Whereas the intuitive voice is much calmer, much stiller. And you start to recognize it. So you come to know it in your meditation, such that as you move through your life, it becomes a recognizable voice. But if you don't get familiar with it in your meditation, you'll never be able to access it the rest of the time. And so as you're living the rest of your life also, and these other voices arise, just remember, neti neti, not this, not that. No, you can't convince me I don't look the right way. No, you can't make me feel badly about myself. No, you can't suddenly make me materialistic and consumeristic. No, I mean, just notice how many voices come at you from outside, from inside. And just, not this, not this, not this. And slowly, slowly you'll find that the voice that remains is your intuition. Yeah, beautiful. Have a beautiful, beautiful rest of your evening, everyone. A beautiful day to our family joining online. And I look so forward to being together tomorrow. And so much love to you all.